My favorite question to ask them is like, what pieces of advice you have for me? These people that are so positive, they just tell me, they're like, it's just all about being thankful and having a positive mindset.
There's no in between. You either advance in life and you improve and you learn and you grow, or you go backwards. You can't stay, because life does not stay still.
You are like the 5 closest people you spend, your most time with. But one of those people, I think everyone looks past, and that's yourself. Up here, that's where you're spending the most time. You got to start analyzing what your self-talk is.
But as I went through it and I faced that fear, I became more comfortable. Eventually, you can teach yourself or train yourself to become that person that is confident, that believes in who he is.
Not even just saying like I want to do something. I think it's the power of saying like I am. It all ties back to purpose.
All right, well, welcome everyone. I'm Juanes, and I have a very special today, Sam. A funny story, an interesting story. Sam was my boss last summer. He was the one that gave me the opportunity to I would say one of the best experiences I've had in my life, and toughest experiences. I'm not gonna lie, it was really tough. An internship in Orlando where we sell pest control. But before I talk too much, I want him to kind of tell us a little bit about himself. So, Sam, tell me a little bit about who you are, because some people may not know, who will watch this video, of who you are, where were you born, and all that stuff. Just shortly, briefly.
So yeah, just don't give me the floor for too long, because I'll run us out of time here. But from Maine, went to school at Bryant University in Rhode Island. Always loved business. Like ever since I was a kid, always was going around selling things, suckering my sister for Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, whatever it was, learning the art of sales, and was always extremely driven for success, I would say. Extremely competitive. Was not a naturally, very smart kid. I had to work a lot in school, but I'd get very competitive with grades and other kids in my class, and always wanted to try to fight to be towards the top. A lot of that kind of stemmed when I was actually put in slow reading classes when I was young. It was like kind of like a special ed reading class, 2 years. Yeah, they called me Sped Sam. It's not very fun, but I got very competitive from that, and that probably sparked a bit of that competitiveness. And then really just after graduating college, just wanted to go out on my own and just learn. Over the last 6 years or so, I've just been an absolute sponge, and just taking a chance. My grandfather always said Columbus took a chance and discovered America. Some people say that's not entirely true, but it's the saying. I think that I try to live by, of like, you kind of shoot for the stars, and kind of that whole process that goes along with it, really just keeps my life interesting and brings me a lot of happiness, I'd say.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, I was very impressed with the first interview that I had with you, and how you would talk, and the passion you showed for sales, but for life as well. And that's what I learned this past summer whenever you would give us the motivational speech at the beginning before going out and knocking doors, which we'll get into it a little bit. I really always wonder, what is this guy on? Is he taking something before he comes and talks to us, or is he really truly passionate? Because I was telling the other day, one of my managers at work, I was like, you can't teach passion. It's one thing that I don't think you can teach. I mean, you either have it, or you can develop it by yourself, but someone cannot train you to have passion. And so that's one of the things that really stuck out to me. That's one of the reasons why I invited you to come and talk with us. Not only that, I think you're a really cool guy, but also I think we can learn a lot from you, and maybe you can learn a little bit from this channel, from us. But that, I guess, nice to meet you, and for all the viewers, I hope they enjoy this chat with you, because I think we're going to touch some interesting topics. I'm very passionate about motivation. I'm very passionate about how having passion towards life, towards, yeah, in a sense, to be productive, So let's go on to the first question, and is just to give people a little bit of background. Last summer, I worked with Sam in a company that basically dedicated themselves to sell pest control and provide services like that in Orlando, where we were, in other cities. But we would do it door to door, so it implied a physical challenge, a mental challenge, and also, I would say, my part, a spiritual challenge. So just for people to know a little bit of what we're talking. So the first question is the power of knocking one more door, and how does it relate to life? I remember you telling us every morning, or not every morning, but most of every morning, it's like, hey, don't freaking leave without getting that one sale. But in a sense, what my message, what I got to my mind was like, always knock one more. Always go to one more door. If you're doing badly that day, or even you're doing great, knock one more door. So I wanted to ask you, why is it that you would preach that? What was your style? Because I know you were very successful selling pest control and selling in general. Why is it that is so important to knock that last or that next door?
Um, I think, and I think, we'll get into this a little bit more when we talk more about like passion and what passion is. But ultimately, I believe that all of the kind of finer things in life are not just necessarily handed to you. They take a lot of work, and I always tie my work with my personal life as well. Um, but like even just like I'll give you an example of like my relationship with my girlfriend, right? When I first started talking to her, no two people are the same exact person. You're not going to agree on every single thing,
Yeah.
right? And to work through any disagreement or anything, it's not easy, right? Um, but through doing that, you find compromise, and I think that that is like the beauty in relationships. And I think that all of that stuff, I was very fortunate that my mom, kind of growing up, always really gave me an outlook of my future. Like, hey, do you want kids someday? Like, do you want to be a good dad? Like, yeah, I know you don't love the house that we grew up in. Do you want to be able to have a bigger house? You can kind of have friends over and do the things that you want to do. And that was very much instilled in me. And I always knew that that was not going to come easy. And so the one more door motto was really just that way of like putting in the work and putting in the efforts to get you the results. And, over the course of the entire summer, that one more door, oftentimes would turn into an extra sale.
Yep.
Especially just because of the mentality. I felt like almost by putting that out there, sometimes you'd feel like, wow, this just, you'd open the door, they'd be like, oh, we needed pest control. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I feel like the universe almost was like wanted you to kind of fight through the adversity, and the rewards would kind of come through that. So um yeah, to kind of wrap that up, the one more door was really just a way of like mentally preparing myself to be like, it's just one more, right? I'm simplifying um, the difficulties, and overcoming, I guess, the self doubt of like, oh, geez, I just want to go home. I just want to do this, right? Because I think that's naturally where our brain it kind of pushes us towards.
No, I like that. And since the day I started working with you guys and that experience, I had some family that I would see every Sunday, and they would always ask me, "How did this week go?" And "How did this week go?" And I had some weeks where I was okay, and then I had 2 weeks where it was terrible. And they were just constantly supporting me, but they were like, "What's going on?" And I
You're
was like,
crying. You're
"I'm
like,
crying.
awful this week.
Sam has traumatized me."
I'm
Uh,
like, Calidars.
they're like, quit. No, but one of the things that my mom remembers from that this past summer is a shirt that I have that I really love. It's one of my favorite shirts. It's old, it's ugly, but I love it. It's a Nike shirt that says quitting is unacceptable. I often sleep with it because it reminds me of my method of thinking, of what my parents told me and raised me with, and my family. And that was not an option. But in that video call that I was having with my mom, often talking about my struggles in that summer, she was very worried, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, this sounds such a tough job. I want him to quit." She was thinking this. But then she saw my shirt read my shirt, and she was like, I need to shut up. This kid is not going to quit. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Oh, my mom was the same. My mom was the same way. She's like, "Just fly home whenever you're ready. We have a room for you." I'm like, "Stop saying that. You're making it so easy for me to give up." And a lot of kids do that. I mean, you saw,
yep,
throughout
yes,
the summer, the drop off is pretty insane of people that come out, and it's crazy in the interview process of like, I'm like, "Hey, this job is not easy. It's going to be very difficult, right? Like people are going to be yelling at you. Some people just take all their anger throughout the day out on you because you're just some random person. You're like, okay."
okay.
And some people don't realize that going into it. And I tell them, and of course, in the interview, they're like, "Oh, I can handle that. That's easy." Until they get out there and they actually deal with it, and they realize it's a lot harder than you
Yeah,
just say.
I agree. And that's why, to me, was not only a test, a daily test, selling wise, but the daily test, spiritual wise. I lost a lot of the routines that I had. I don't think because I was bad or undisciplined. I think because the job was so demanding that you just need the rest. I think you can relate. You've done it for more than I, and you
Yeah.
need to sleep. If you don't sleep, that next day you're not going to be a person. You can't smile if you don't sleep, basically. And but what struck me the most during those days, and what I can take out of this job and that experience and the knocking one more door was is the story of my life and everyone who's watching us. Is you have two options in life always, whether you're struggling or not. You always have the option to keep fighting, keep going, keep moving, or quitting, or
Right.
stop, move backwards. Because I love a saying. I was listening to a podcast. Jordan Peterson was talking to Matthew McConaughey.
Jordan
He,
Peterson. Nice.
yeah, Jordan Peterson, amazing. I think he's awesome. But he was talking about, I think it was Matthew, the actor, who was saying, there's no in between. You either advance in life and you improve and you learn and you grow, or you go backwards. You can't stay. You can't, because life does not stay still. You're either moving and evolving, or you're going backwards because the world does not stop. Whether you're in sales, whether you're in a spiritual life. I mean, as a Catholic, as a
Right.
Christian, we were talking last week that the Lord will always ask you to step over one line every day. And if you don't step over that line, whatever He's asking you, wherever step you're in the spiritual life, whether He's asking you, hey, pray once a day or 5 minutes a day, if you don't step over that line, you're going to step backwards, which means you're never going to pray. And if you step over that, it's like knocking one more door.
Right. Yeah, you're fighting father time, right?
Yep.
Like every day, if you're just trying to stay the same, you're actually technically getting a day older,
Yep.
right? And you look at someone who like maybe wants to stay the same. You say, for example, a house would be a good example. You build a house, well, 20 years, that house isn't going to look the same,
No.
okay? Just naturally, weather, things like that are just going to start damaging that thing. So I agree. If you're not moving forward, you are moving back, and that's just how the world works.
Yeah, and that I guess leads us to my second point, which I think it correlates because one thing that really stuck out to me, and I was telling you the other day in our phone call that I try to do, not as we did it that summer, but you always, anytime we had a meeting before going out and knocking doors, you would say, "Hey, write three thankfuls. Come on, hurry up, write your thankfuls." I think that's so powerful, not only for work but for life. If I tell you, it's funny, but I do it. I do it when I'm showering, and I do it, and I just put on like I just try to find three things, and it's hard. It's hard to find three different things that you're thankful for because we as human beings we're always focused on the negatives. We're always like, oh, why is this apartment like not as big as I wanted to? Why is this job from 9 to whatever? Instead of, well, thank you, I have a job. Thank you, I have an apartment. And thank you, I don't know, I have hot shower, whatever it is. Those are three simple things, and you can be thankful for other big things. But what I wanted to ask you is mainly why is this important for everyone, and why should we all implement in our lives? And but before that, where did you? I guess this is a new question. Where did you come up with that, and why do you think it's important? Where did you come up with the concept of writing three thankfuls?
Oh, it's a good question. Um, Honestly, like I think it was a conjunction of like knocking doors, and then also a few of the books that I read. So, um, just through knocking doors, you meet some amazing people, right? Like you could be having a terrible day and then you just get that one person who's like, is this God himself like on the door? I'm like, who is this? They're just, come on in, get some water. You want some food? Like, how about a massage? I'm like, it's happening right now,
That's
you
cool.
know? But you meet those people and they're just like, they start talking to you, typically they'll start mentioning like gratitude because my favorite question to ask them is like, what pieces of advice do you have for me? Because I'm trying to get to where you're at someday. And every time I've asked that, these people that are so positive, they just tell me they're like, it's just all about being thankful and having a positive mindset. And that in conjunction, I think, with a mentor that I had told me about however, all these other mentors, they mentioned like your sphere of influence. You are like the five closest people you spend, your most time with. But one of those people, I think everyone looks past, and that's yourself. Up here, that's where you're spending the most time, typically, is with yourself.
Yep.
And you got to start analyzing what your self-talk is. Like you said before, naturally we are just negative people. That's our inherent nature. And so when you're like, oh my God, I got to do better, or oh, I stink, like that self-talk, like imagine if you had like a friend next to you just being like, dude, you got to do better. Dude, you stink.
Yes.
It's not healthy, right? And it's crazy. It's okay for us to tell ourselves that, but it's not okay for someone else to tell us that. That to me was just like a total twist. That really kind of hit me deep. I was like, wow, self-talk is so important. And eventually through one of the books, I'm not sure if it was Happiness Advantage or what, but talked about starting your day with 3 thankfuls and just being able to get your mind in just a positive state, and how much more that's going to just attract those things that you want in life. And so I was like, you know what? We need to be implementing this every day. I shouldn't just be doing this by myself in the morning before I come in. If I really want to be a great leader, I need to get everybody else doing this as well. And we just need to start every morning with this and share. Because even sometimes for me, it's like, even for example, when my grandmother passed away, like it was like sometimes things happen in your life. It's really hard to get those thankfuls. Like, and you'll say them, but deep down you're still kind of hurt.
Yep.
But when you have other people bringing thankfuls out, like even, you were my favorite person to call on because you were probably the most positive person in the whole office, which is why everyone loved you so much. And so, I think, for example, calling on you and you hit us with these like, wow, that energy is so positive. It becomes infectious. You make everyone else like, you kind of like one up everyone on the positive scale. It's like, holy wow, you know. So I think you just raised the bar in that sense, and it was just unbelievable for culture. And once we started doing it, and I asked everyone their feedback, they were like, my absolute favorite thing is those thankfuls in the morning, and it's just something that I never took away.
And what you're saying is crazy because now that I'm again in sales, I often forget what my best days start with. And it starts with me being positive. It starts with me being thankful. Because like you just said, that's contagious. That's contagious, and people don't want to be sold. They want to have a conversation. They want to, like you were saying, you would ask often people, what is your advice towards me? People love that. People love to give advices, and people love others asking for help. I mean, we as human beings love to, like, when someone asks, hey, dude, how do you do this? Can you teach me? I don't know, but I personally love it when someone asks me, oh, I'm the expert. I can help someone. I can teach someone. That's cool. But I often forget here now that I'm doing sales again. It's like, dude, when I have bad days, I forget. Where does it all start? It starts with you, within yourself, and saying, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this bad day. Thank you for that. I did not do anything well today at my job. Thank you because I'm learning. It wasn't all in vain. If I did my 150%, if I knocked the next door and I did not sell it, at least I knocked it. I did not went and back and took a nap or whatever, because that, I think that's what matters. And with those thankfuls, just what I wanted to kind of what it what I think it just to the day I think is awesome is when you write. I'm a big believer in like visualizing things and seeing them. I write my goals for every week and for every day in a little board. I copied this from a good friend of mine from college, a roommate. He was a 4.0 student, which I was in college, undergrad. And I would always wonder why he was so smart. I thought he was like, I mean, he was just a genius. But he one day told it to me. It was easy. He was like, dude, I'm not a genius. I just use my time. It's the same time that you have. And he's like, okay, but I was like, what do you do? He's like, look, you see this board? I write my things that are this week and then the upcoming week. And I just do every homework the day that the professor assigns it. So that my roommate, he was amazing because he was like, every day he could watch a show that he wanted. Every weekend he was free, and he was double majoring in economics and business, which was not easy. And he had a 4.0 in both classes. He was honors student, amazing. And I was like, how did this guy do this? Well, I just copied his method, and he's been very effective, like very powerful. But it's very simple. It's the power of you visualizing your goals and visualizing what you're thankful for. I'm going back to the thankfuls. When you visualize, it's one thing saying I'm thankful for this, which is awesome. You start by saying it great, but when you write something down, it's so powerful. I don't know. I think it's just
No, it's they, I don't know the exact I guess wording on this, but to retain something, typically there's a few ways you really can retain something, right? You hear it, you read it, you write it, and you repeat it.
yeah,
Okay. So it's kind of all those that you're mentioning, like to be able to really like, you know, engrave, I guess, something in you, like those positive things. You say, hey, write down three things you're thankful for, right? Here's some of mine, right? You're hearing them, and then you're writing them, reading them, and then, we go around and have everyone say them as well. So that's their repeating them, to be able to actually live it. And like you said too, that manifestation, visualizing, you can't get somewhere that you don't know where you're going. You can't drive a car with a blindfold,
yeah,
right? And another term would end pretty badly, and you definitely wouldn't make it to your destination. So manifestation is also huge. um, Goal writing, and I think going off of that too, one is not even just saying like I want to do something. I think it's the power of saying like I am
yep,
this, like that's who I am. And I love having this call with you right now too, because I remember like 5, 6 years ago, I wanted to impact lives. I wanted to be a good manager. And my first year, as I was saying, I want. And it wasn't really until like I actually started truly believing it, believing that I am, and believing that I am putting good information out there, that I actually eventually ended up starting making impacts. Um, so 1000%, that manifestation piece is like, you need that.
yeah. What you just said is completely true. There's a difference between saying I want to and I am, because it's actually what a lot of the things you just said are things that I preached to my players when I was a coach, because that's how I got my master's, being an assistant coach for a golf team. And golf is all about being positive. It's all about visualization. It's all about manifesting, and it's all about believing, not only believing, but being what you're believing. So if I want to be the best, I need to become the best. I am the best, and I have to say it on the first tee box. And often the kids would laugh at me like, why would I do that? I'm like, you have to. You listen to Tiger Woods, you listen to whoever is successful. They're never gonna say, they get asked, so do you think you can win this tournament? They're like, I would not sign up if I don't think or know that I'm going to win this tournament. There's a big difference between wanting and being and knowing that you are an impactful person. So
That
I love
video, that video of Tiger when he was just a young kid too, and the interviewer's like, "Oh, you've got a lot to learn."
it.
Yeah. Oh, that's my favorite video to watch, when Tiger just goes, I know I'm gonna win this tournament. It's
And
like,
it's before he's like boom. And
yeah, before he's even big, he's a
that guy's going
kid.
to be famous
He's
of
a
like
kid.
Gary.
He is just a kid. And it, for a lot of people, I think that's hard too. And that's something that is so important to teach if you are a manager or a leader, or even just a parent, for that matter. and we saw it with a few of the guys that were in the office too. Like, I think Owen and Josh were great at naturally kind of believing in themselves, if you
Yeah.
will. But I do think that a lot of people also naturally aren't that great at believing in themselves. Um, and to teach that concept, like you're never going to get there unless you actually do believe in yourself. Oh my gosh, it's so important. It's so important. And that was a big thing for me too in my first 2 weeks. I share my experience a lot. I didn't make a single sale my first 2 weeks when I first started. And I was like, I'm not the type of guy to do this type of sale, like knock on someone's door and do this. Like this is not me. I'm an analytical guy. I need to know things. I don't just spew things out. Um, but the second I changed that mindset of like, no, like I am actually providing really good value, and that's why I am the best salesman because I can do both. The second I changed that is when
You.
my results changed.
And that what you just said, I think is huge because I do believe that although not many people are born with it, believing or not born, but like have that personality, outgoing, like Owen, you were describing Owen and Josh, they're just naturally outgoers and they just dominate the room whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
How they are. A lot of people are not like that. I'm actually an introvert. I know it, but I had to teach myself. No, yes, I am. I had to teach myself and to really challenge myself and face my biggest fears, which was I was afraid of being the attention of the room. No, not, but I'm saying a
Yeah.
while ago.
I hope
No,
the viewers know about the Nacho Libre mask
that's
moment.
no, that's
They have
another
to be
story.
afraid. They
So
don't know. They don't know that you were the hype man of the whole office, man. If they saw what I've seen, they wouldn't be buying this either.
no. But when I was little, when I was a golfer, but when I played golf since I was 6, but when I was in like social environments, I hated those environments for some reason. I was too shy. I was very, very shy. And I had to teach myself through what? Through just literally just putting myself in the spot. And then that really happened in college when I took a lot of classes that really, you're going to laugh maybe, but my favorite classes were public speaking classes because
Really?
it was facing fear. It was facing the biggest fear I had, which was I would sweat. I would just like, I would never pass out or anything. I'm a person that I go through things. Like I'm never going to like freeze out. But I was so scared. Like for example, I would always wear like a sweater because I was so sweaty. Like I would not. But then it's not. It doesn't sound pretty. But as I went through it and I faced that fear, I became more comfortable, and eventually you can teach yourself or train yourself to become that person that is confident, that believes in who he is.
Can
That's
I
all.
ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, I'm taking control of this interview here. Sorry. But I was actually the same way. Before my baseball tryouts, it was like little league tryouts. I was practicing all year, like throughout the entire off season, was putting in extra hours because I really wanted it. And then the baseball tryouts came and I ran out of the room before my name was called.
Oh,
I was next up and I just puked in the bushes.
oh,
Yeah, my dad was there and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I'm done. I want to quit. I don't actually want to do this. And he had me basically toughen up and get in there. But one of my coping mechanisms was at a young age, I would chew mint gum. It would really settle my stomach. It would kind of give me
yeah.
something to do. I'm curious, like, did you have any coping mechanisms of your own?
When I was very scared about that, about
When you first started overcoming, like you said, face your fears and you had to cope with it. How did you cope with it?
it's
What
funny
did
you
you have
mentioned
a self-talk? There had
it's
to be something before it. You didn't just do
no,
it, right?
no, I agree. So looking back, I think the turning point was college. And it's funny that you just mentioned gum because I was trying to think what I would do. I chew a lot of gum in college, but not when you were going to speak. So before us, I would go on public speaking. You
Yeah,
can't
you can't be talking like Tony Cappuccino, chewing around
exactly.
your
No,
gum like
it's
that.
yeah, no. But one
Yeah.
of them was, I think gum was just relaxing to me. And what I did gum for, it was just because it would help me not fall asleep in classes because I would fall asleep. Uh, but I'm
Helps
trying to
boost
think.
creativity too.
Yeah, no, but one of the biggest things I would do, and I think that was the key, to be honest. is preparation. And I am like that. So if I had a presentation, I was the overachiever in a sense. So I would not only prepare myself like the professor would say, hey, if you're gonna do a public like a speech, you have to practice it like 5 times by yourself or like for like an hour. I would not only do that against the mirror and practice my body expressions, my everything, but I would go to the actual classroom at night, the night before, and present it.
Wow. All
That's
right.
how much
That's your
I
thing.
tried hard in those presentations because I liked them. And anything else like microeconomics, oh my goodness, microeconomics, I was like, get out of here. But
Now,
the presentations, I would take the time to
what would you do for things that you couldn't do that for? Like, I'm sure you had golf tournaments where you flew in and you've never played the course before, right? Or no, is that not the case?
Yeah, when I played in Nebraska, we didn't fly, we didn't have that much money, but we would drive and and
You getting
yeah,
off with jumpsuits on, your shades,
no,
ESPN's following you in.
the,
One Gallion.
but no,
Cheers!
we did have in Hastings. Our coach, for some reason, didn't organize many practice rounds, which is for golf. The practice round is more important than the tournament, in my opinion. But we had that sometimes. So what I would do is one, I would be smart and Google the course and Google Earth it. So I'm always an over prepared person. I'm like that. I'm sucker rigid. I need to have everything prepared. Otherwise, I know I will not perform as good. Maybe I will perform, but maybe not excel. And I don't want to be mediocre. So that's one way I would use is Google Earth. But then the other one is just you have to be able to improvise while you're there. So you have to really analyze the course, but it's super tough in golf. So I would somehow like always buy the little yardage book at the pro shop. It's like basically the course drawn out with the yardages and everything, and that would be very helpful because then I know where to aim and all this stuff. But that's how it would
Nice. Cool.
be.
Anything you could piece together. It's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, I won't ask any more questions. Back to you.
That's awesome. No, I love it. This is the first time someone asked me questions.
Yeah.
Love
I
it.
got a few
I
more
think that's
questions
cool.
for you.
Take me out of my
actually.
comfort zone. I
Yeah.
love it. I guess that leads us to another one, which I think it relates. Like what we were talking about, we both have the option to quit in our efforts to become confident, to become comfortable in a sense of being the center of attention or a room or at a sport. So there's always the option of quitting. That's an option for the viewers to know. You can always quit. Yeah. But in my opinion, and what we believe, not only at Lifting the Veil here at the YouTube channel, what we try to preach is, hey, not only not quit in life, not quit in the Lord, not quit in the people that you love, not quit at your jobs, but also go through the extra mile, knock that extra door. So, from your experience, why do people quit, and why should we never quit, although it's still an option? Why do people quit, and why should we never
I
quit?
don't think that you should never quit.
Okay.
I'll start with that. Um, for me, there's some things that like I definitely needed to quit at. Like I was going to be an actuary. Actually, I was in college. Some people don't know what an actuary is, but it's just all numbers, number crunching.
Okay.
And I was studying for my first exam, and I hadn't graduated yet, but I put all this time in, and for me, it just was becoming like unhealthy. I didn't like how I see my life was becoming. The work that I was putting in, I didn't want to even get the result anymore. And so therefore I quit.
Yeah.
Um, However, why do people quit? I think there's a lot of things in that, and I don't think I can give an exact answer, but I would say that a lot of it comes down to how they're raised, and you know their influences around them, right? Kind of like you said, you've had people in your life, or maybe you just have that burning fire in you. You are kind of a unicorn a little bit, Juan. So, um, I don't know. Maybe you're a special breed, but for
Yeah.
me, my parents were always like, "You never quit. You go in, you finish." And even when I told my parents that I wanted to change my major, my mom was like, had an anxiety attack. She's like, "Oh, don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit." I'm like, "I'm not quitting. I'm just changing my major, to do something that I actually want to do, to have passion for." But I think that it all ties back to purpose and intention. And for me, getting into door to door, when I first got into it, was I number one needed to, leave mother's nest. Okay. And so a big purpose was for me to go out there. I got that opportunity for free housing. And my purpose was to just learn foundational sales skills that are going to help me throughout the rest of my life, because
Yep.
those skills of influence can be used in everything, right? I know my mom needed a lot of influence to get me to go to school a lot of times, and I knew, I'd need those skills as well, because my kids wound up anything like me. They'd be trying to fake puke in the toilet, stay home from school. I better have some good sales skills to get these kids out the door. So, um, anyways, it was all that, and whatever came from it, it didn't necessarily matter if I completely made a dollar. Um, that purpose was behind it. There was a little bit of financial purpose as well, just because I did have $120,000 of student loans hanging over my head. So that was kind of another thing. Like, I can't really even afford to quit. Um, so yeah, putting yourself in situations where there's a deeper purpose in tying yourself to something. I think if you don't have that, it makes it so much easier to quit. Um, but yeah, if you have purpose, I mean, you can't quit at something. That's why I think purpose is so important. And that's why at the start of every summer, I always talked about our whys. Why are you here? Right. And the people who didn't have strong whys failed. There's
Yep.
one kid I won't name, but remember we would go around and be like, I don't really have a why. He didn't end up too well at the end of
Yeah.
the summer. I'm not going to name that person, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yep. No, I think what you just said
He
is very
goes by the name of, no, I'm just kidding.
no, no,
Here's a link to his Instagram.
no, no, no,
Go
no.
call him a quitter. No.
No, no. I think you will learn though from that experience as well, though. But like what you just said, I think it's key, and it's also key for spiritual life. Maybe the question was not the best way to formulate it, but I do still believe that you did not quit. You just switched to another different opportunity. But quitting would be quitting college and just go and like what a lot of kids, which I've experienced because I coached some kids that quit college, quit the golf team, and quit college. That's called quitting. If you tell me you're going to switch sports, maybe if you're going to switch majors like you did, I think I agree with that. You don't want to study something you're going to regret for the whole rest of your life. But if you're going to quit, like just because you're just not good enough, or because it's too tough, or because it's just you're lazy, because I believe that's one of the main reasons people quit at different things is because they're lazy. They don't want to take the time or the effort to really freaking power through, power through college or power through a summer knocking on doors. Uh, but I don't think you quit. I think you just switched it, which is fine. I think it's finding that purpose that you were saying. But what you just said about purpose relates to the next question, in my opinion, because it's like, well, before I go into the next question, I wanted to just really quickly ask you another question: is that purpose and that why? For you, you just said it, like you had some debt, you wanted to get out of your mom's nest, which is something that Jordan Peterson tells really often. He's like,
Get out of the nest. You're never gonna
get out of
grow
the
up.
nest. If you want to grow up, if you can start providing for yourself and then provide for others, then you grow up, you become a man or a woman, whatever. But a man, you cannot become a man if you're still with the nest of your daddy and your mommy, paying your bills, paying your food, paying your car, paying your insurance. Pay for that by yourself, and then you can change the world. It's like Jordan Peterson tells us, like, change yourself, organize your room before you go change the world. I love that. And I think what you just said about purpose and why, I think answers the question of why not quitting or how to not quit. I think if you have that strong why. So I wanted to ask you, during whether it was last summer or your first summer, did you have like a critical moment where you were like, I'm quitting? And what, I guess the purpose or the why, but do you remember any like a specific time or day where you're like, I'm quitting, like there's no turning back, and then something grab you like, oh no, you're gonna finish, you're gonna stay.
Yeah. I think just a magic question. I think my mom always asked me growing up, and I think that everyone should ask themselves. And I shout out Connie for this. She's just the goat. But she always asks, like, what do you want to do when you're older? And I think that is like a magic question because everyone always has, you think that you have to have it all figured out and have your exact answer. I don't think that you need to have an exact answer like, oh, I want to be a doctor, or oh, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be the president, right? I don't think you need an exact thing because I really don't believe there is any one specific job that brings anyone a ton of happiness,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like me asking someone like, "Oh, what workout do you want to do for the rest of your life?" It's like, "Well, I kind of want to do a bunch of different ones, right?" But I think that when you actually envision like what is it that I want in life, right? Um, whether that's material things, whether that's like respect, for example. Do you want to be respected in your workplace, at your household, right? Those are things that you can reverse engineer and kind of realize like for me like I'll even go into like respect for example or love, right? Respect, it's like if you want respect you need to do the things that you are really supposed to do behind closed doors and not quit, right?
Yeah.
Quitting is not going to earn you any respect, I can tell you that right now. Cutting hours short is not going to earn you any respect. In fact, if you want to earn respect, you have to do almost the exact opposite of that. You have to double down, right? Um, and love, like unconditional love. I think that love comes your way as well when you open yourself up to it. And and maybe I'm going down a rabbit hole here, so feel free to stop me. But
No.
um, you need to be able to love as well in order to be able to receive love. And so putting the extra time in to show love, like for me in the morning with my girlfriend, for example, it's like I rub her head or scratch her head, massage her head. I know it's something that she absolutely loves. And, or even just like making her a breakfast sandwich. Like it's extra time out of my day that I know that I have to put in to contribute to the relationship. Some
Yeah.
people might find that stupid, but I think that's my way of showing that, unconditional like just love. I'm taking time out of my day to do that for her, and I think she does the same for me as well.
That's
And
awesome.
that's something that I've always wanted. I've always wanted to be in love and really care for someone else. I think that it is a love is a selfless act. It should not be a selfish act. And so, yeah, I think that by showing love to her through those ways that she wants to be loved is just a way, again, of tying back into it. What is it that I want? Right. And therefore, I'm not going to quit at getting what I want.
I like that. I like that. And that I think leads us into the next question, which is giving up in projects and work directly correlates to giving up in life. I have a little scripture that I really liked preparing for this chat with you that I think really ties up with the spiritual life. That is the whole purpose of this YouTube channel. I love to talk about motivation and work life and sales and experiences, but I think, and I don't only think, I know and I believe and I know that this is what we're promised, because that's like you were saying though, if you don't have a bigger why, I would quit. I would quit on my faith. I would quit on this journey. I was just telling Sam. Now we just already. I did a video about some of the proposals that we here at the Lifting the Veil team we propose for people that to apply to their lives. And one of those things is to get up at 4:30 a.m. and do a prayer. And and I was telling a priest the other day that if it wasn't because I know that there's a bigger why than just getting up because of their routine of 4:30 a.m. If I was just getting up because it's a routine, it wouldn't make sense. It would not make sense. I would say it would be stupid because it would be sacrificing sleep for just the heck of it. That makes no sense. We're sacrificing sleep because we know there's something bigger. We're trying to do the first commandment, which is putting the Lord above all things. Do I do it all the time? No. I can tell you right now, no. I confess very often because I make mistakes very often. But that just simple act of, like you were saying with your girlfriend, showing love, making that little extra sandwich, egg sandwich, whatever. For me, getting that extra 2 hour early, it's a sign of love towards the Lord and towards He's given me, and trying to start complying with the first commandment, which is love Him above all things. Before I do anything before the day, I try to do that prayer with my family. It's not only me. Sometimes I don't wake up. But what I was going with that is to read this scripture real quick, and then we dive into the question so you can answer it. But it says from the letter of St. James, verse 1 to 12, and it says, "Happy the man who stands firm when trials come. He has proved himself and will win the prize of life, the crown that the Lord has promised to those who love Him." I think that's huge. I think that's the promise as Christians, as Catholics. That's what drives me. That's the why. You ask me, if you ask me my why that summer, if you would remember the thankfuls, some of the thankfuls that I wrote were things like you just shared with me and with the YouTube channel here, that you lost your grandmother and that was painful. I've lost 3 very important people in my life very recently. One in 2013 when I was a freshman in college. She was 23 at the time. She played college golf. She was one of the reasons I came to the States. She passed away in a car accident, and I lost her, and I lost my way. I become super attractive to alcohol and different other things because I did not want to deal with that pain. And then in 2020, during the pandemic, I lost a little brother. He was 13 months, and he passed away. And here at Lifting the Veil, we all share that pain because we're all kind of related, whether we're blood related or not. And then most recently, my coach who hired me, who brought me back to the States, who gave me the opportunity to get a master's, not for free because I paid with work, but to that huge opportunity, who sold me the car that I have for like basically nothing, who gave off his time and his love and amazing things. He passed away in November with ALS. And the season so terrible. But
sorry to hear.
What I was going with that is, if my why is not big enough, if my why is not big enough to endure and to pull me through these painful things that happen, and I could say I could do the most common question that non-believers ask is, oh, if God is almighty and if He's good, why does He let you suffer things like that? Why does He permit death? Well, we would have to do another video about that. But the question that I was going to ask you is, why giving up in projects and work directly, and like giving up at work or whatever, like that internship, the kids that quit, why that correlates to giving up in life in a sense? Does that make sense, or did I just make that up? Like maybe I'm the only one that thinks that way. What do you think?
No, so just to reiterate, are you saying pretty much why are those small things actually end up being bigger things? Are you kind of getting at?
Yes, that's where I was going.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we are creatures of habit. That's just a fact. Like you had kind of said, waking up and doing prayer, and that is clear that when I talk to you every morning, I can see it. That is literally who you've become. You are this positive person. That's why everyone loves you so much. And, especially in the office this summer, it's like, it's hard, right? I'm going back to using you as an example, but it was infectious, right? We are creatures of habit. That's who you made that of yourself by your habits in the morning. And I think that if you start taking on the habit of quitting, that is going to bleed into the rest of your life. I think that a lot of that too comes from lack of clarity. I think that if you don't have a goal, it's easy to quit at whatever it is that you're doing. If your goal is just like, you know what, I'm just going to get up every morning, and go for a run. Like, why? Why are you getting up and going for a run? Is it just something that you're doing? I think it's like so easy to just quit that versus saying like, you know what, like, no, my goal is to be able to help my cardiovascular system because I'm just not in shape right now. And I want to be able to be the athletic dad when I'm older that's going to be outside playing with my son, playing baseball, doing things. I don't want to be held back in life from all these beautiful things. And so my goal is to run a mile every morning to make sure that I can still be doing that stuff down the line, right? Like, you're tying it farther and farther down the line. I think people need to kind of look past that stuff. to tie back into their why and to create those habits that will then bleed into the other parts of your life as well in a positive sense, rather than like you're kind of saying, if you're quitting, I think that creates that quitting creature of habit.
Yeah, I agree with you because the reason I share those little things of painful things that I carry, not only me, but the lifting the veil team, which is my family, is because we have the option to quit, to just say, what the heck, I'm not gonna ever gonna getting up anymore to get up and pray. That's just not, that's dumb. I'm never going to mass again. We have that option. But is that why, like you just said, that bigger purpose for me is that hope and that faith that I will see my brother again, that I will see this coach again who was so special to me. And it's not an easy thing to say. It's so hard because a lot of people say that time heals, and it's not true. In my opinion, time creates. I feel whenever I remember my little brother, I feel sometimes even more pain, and I cry more than that day because I miss him more. But is that hope? Is that bigger why that keeps me fighting, keeps me going, keeps me? Yes, I fall, and yes, I get up, and yes, I keep. That's why I'm doing these videos. When they told me, Antonio told me, "Hey, why don't you take over the English section? Let's start it. Let's do it." I was like so afraid. I was like, "Oh no! I just started a new job in Houston. How am I going to do this? How am I going to find the time? I could have quit before starting, and I could quit right now. But is that why that's guiding me? And like you just said, is that why for the run for 1 mile that guides you? It's much more bigger. If you're preparing for a marathon or if you're preparing for to be an athlete or whatever, it's a bigger why than the one like, oh, I'm just getting up because it's a good thing for you. That's not specific. It's not getting take you anywhere. Which leads me to the next question: is having a why can give you successes and failures. Like in a sense, like having a why can give purpose to those successes and failures. Like even if you have that why and you failed at whatever you did, can
Mhm.
that give purpose to that failure? That's what I'm trying to ask.
Big time, big time. Yeah, I think that I just started this new job, and uh, my what I told myself, it's another commission job, but this was I just this was my first month, and so what I told myself, kind of going into it, was like, look, I don't care if I don't make a single dollar, right? The reason I'm doing this is because it's something that I believe in, right? And I had already reverse engineer it from like, what do I want to do? And I wanted to start my own business and do my own thing. And by just proving that to myself, I knew it was something that when I got older, I would just resent that if I didn't do that. It's just something that I was like, you know what? I'm in my young 20s. I don't have kids. This is my time to do it and get out of the way. So I can't try to blame anyone else.
Yep.
I can't. I'm not going to be that dad that's going to be like, yeah, I didn't start my own business because of you. You're riding the little kids. I'm not going to be that guy. So, because that's not what I want. And so, sorry, I'm going on a tangent again, but
No, you're good.
based off of what I wanted, I had that goal set out for myself of like, hey, this is a step to get there. So I don't care if I fall on my face all month this month, my first month, because this is going to straight up be a learning experience. And I have to do this. I'm not just going to come into this and have it be dandelions and roses. And you need to understand that if you want to achieve something big and you want to feel like proud of something, what you're setting out to do is face challenges. And so I think that through that mindset of saying, like, okay, after every single time I failed, I asked myself this question was, why did I just fail? Why did I just fail? Why? I kept asking why. And I was like, started finding out, oh my God, like I really messed up on that. Wow, I really messed up on this piece. Wow, I need to get that piece down. They asked me this question. I did not answer that thoroughly. I made them feel really uncomfortable through this. And I started looking back into myself and accepting the fact that I'm not born to be be amazing at this. It's something that you have to learn,
Yeah.
right? And so I accepted the fact that this is a learning experience, and I just indulged in all those failures. And now, sure enough, I go from just starting out to being within a month, I already have one of the best closing ratios in this entire group that I'm taking a part of. So I'm like literally top 3 closing ratios right now of hundreds of people in like a month. And it's just I think that a lot of people get into those failures, and they do get those failures every day, but they don't turn around and ask themselves, why did I not get that? They don't put it back on themselves, and give themselves the opportunity to grow and to get better. And when you do give yourself that opportunity, man, things happen so fast. It's crazy. You say it yourself, you had a summer of doing that, and you're already in your next position and getting promotions left and right, and they absolutely love you in your new job, right? Um, I mean, you tell me, would you say that it comes down to you being accountable, self-accountable? And ask yourself this too. If you're a manager and you have someone that you're coaching, what questions do you want them to ask themselves? Do you want them to be self-starters? You want them to be like self-learners, self-reflect? Or do you want to have to be there all the time being like, "Hey man, I hate to break it to you. You really stink at this. Really stink at this part. You're really stinking at this part, right?" Like every manager's dream is to have a kid who can self-reflect and, help teach themselves, and then as the manager, you're there for the information. So, I try to again reverse engineer all that. I want to be the person that every manager wants. Because if I don't do that, then I will never then get the person that I want to manage. You know, I need to
Yep.
do the steps first before I can create the steps and get those people to then manage.
That's awesome. What you just said is amazing because I think I think we often believe lies in a sense, and we lie to each other and to ourselves specifically. And so whenever something did not go our way, we just, oh, you know what, there was bad weather. I didn't. You know what? It's your fault because you didn't train me the way you promised to train me. Some no, no, no. Shut up. Stop being a quitter. Stop being such a hypocrite, and look at yourself. And it's the same. Just perfect talk because it's the same with Christianity and Catholicism. A lot of times, and I deal with. I'm sorry, I'm going to be very critic, but I do deal with a lot of people that are very hypocrite. Like they just talk the big talking, like them being Catholics and stuff, but never ever talk about their mistakes. Never. And the whole point of Christianity and Catholicism is to say, I'm a sinner, I need help. I'm sick, I need help. And there's a video that I talked about, and I quoted something that I was thinking one day because one priest went to my parish in Kansas and said this, and I loved it when he said it. He said, the Catholic Church is not a hotel for saints. In a sense, it's not a hotel for perfect people. The Catholic Church is a hospital for sinners. It's a hospital for the sick. It's a hospital for those that need help. It's a hospital for those that, literally, what you just said, they are able to see themselves and recognize, okay, I've messed up. How do I change this? And that correlates to sales. That correlates to success. That correlates to motivation, to the gym, to sports, to whatever you're doing. In my opinion, that's how I've been able to, whenever I'm playing back golf, I can't be like, you know what? And that's the easiest is, oh, the wind was blowing at the exact time when I hit that ball. That's why I went to the lake. Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe you did a bad swing. Maybe you had a bad thought. It's on you. It's not on the wind. Sometimes maybe, but very rarely, it's out of your hands. But most of the times, we have control of the outcome. And like you were saying, if I take things and I realize that, okay, failure is an option, it's a possibility. But if I take it as a learning experience and then from that failure, I learn and I grow, then you become successful. Like you just mentioned, like now you're in the top 3 closing when at the beginning was like, oh, but you had to realize and look back and what were my mistakes, made them feel uncomfortable, all these things, which is what I have to do right now. Because last week wasn't very good for me. So it's like, okay, is it coincidence? Is it just like, I just, talk to the wrong business owners? No, it has to be within something I'm doing wrong there that I have to analyze. And just to finish it up, because I talk a lot, for those that are watching this video and for the people that, whoever it is, because this is a YouTube channel is designed not to be just for Catholics and Christians, but for everyone, whoever just likes to hear or learn new things and to discover the truth. Is what I think you just said is the most important. Is you have to be able to have ownership of the things that you do, whether it's good and bad things. You have to be proud of the good things. And you have to also recognize I did this wrong. How do I fix it? I think that's huge for Christianity, for Catholicism, for life.
Right. Yeah. And like going off of that, it's like if you can't look back at yourself and accept that you've made mistakes and, change them, eventually other people won't accept you as well.
Yep.
Right. And I think that we can even relate that through our own personal experiences, people that we haven't accepted into our lives because they constantly do something that is just, you know, like a sin, as you would say, right? So, if you don't take that time to turn around and be like, wow, I made a mistake, let me make up for this, you're never going to be able to get that acceptance from other people as well, if you don't first accept it yourself.
That's awesome. I think you just summarized it, and to end it up pretty quick because we've already talked for an hour. I think you and I could talk for like 5 hours,
I know.
but
Let's keep this going.
I don't think people want to do 5 hours of you and me, but
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know. Just to summarize it, like maybe 3 things that people can apply to their lives that maybe have helped you. 3 things that they can apply to their lives so that they can improve and help them avoid quitting. So like whether they're in sports or whatever, 3 practical
Oh my
things that they.
gosh. Okay. I just did 2 of these things I would say are huge. I just actually wrote these down the other day. So, number 1 is just take a minute, go out somewhere beautiful with a good look, get a good surrounding, get a positive experience by the beach with a mountain view, something, somewhere that you can go to just feel good. Go on a hike, do something like that. And just sit down and talk about things that you want and talk about things that are important to you. Okay. And get clarity on those things and understand, going back to our other piece, that you are going to get those things because you're going to start putting those efforts in. Okay. So make it clear that you're going to start putting the efforts in and committing to those things that you really want. Because I feel like that's how you live a life of purpose, and that's how you live a life, that's not full of regret, right? So the second thing within that, once you've done step 1, I think you go to step 2, and that is analyze how you use your time throughout the day. Okay. I'm going to get brutally honest here for a sec. Okay. I started writing out my calendar, and I'll actually show you guys this on the calendar. So each day I kind of now have like everything planned out hour by hour. And some of these things, you might have to blur out some of those names, but like this thing right here is a 2-hour thing, and I know that I have enough drive time. This is for this week, so I haven't gone in and filled the empty gaps, but I would go in and even write like time to drive to the next meeting or grab something to eat at this time because I
No.
also need to eat and fill that stuff in too.
Yeah.
But my schedule was not like that 4 weeks ago. My schedule was 1 or 2 meetings, and then the rest of my day, I actually realized I was spending thinking about what to do. It was actually filled with anxiety. And so I started writing down, okay, meeting with John Doe. Okay. And then I would, instead of writing a plan, I was writing what I was doing.
Yep.
So, like scrolling Instagram for 30 minutes, scrolling Instagram for an hour. One day I literally scrolled Instagram for an hour. I didn't even realize it.
Oh yeah.
Awful. It was awful. And I wrote it down. I just wrote it honestly. And it wasn't until I looked at my phone and scrolled Instagram for an hour, played pool against my dad on a game for like an hour, like didn't do anything. I'm like, this is not going to get me to what it is that I want. So now I go back to the drawing boards again and I say, like, what sacrifices am I going to make to get those things because I have to make sacrifices. Well, I can easily sacrifice Instagram. So I've now deleted Instagram from my phone. I download it typically on like a Friday night or Saturday, you know, to kind of go back in, keep up with friends and use it socially. But I just deleted it again this morning because Sunday is a productive day for me. And I will have it deleted throughout the rest of this week. As I know I cannot control, I actually have a very bad habit of clicking on it.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. Right. But I sacrificed having it on my phone for, unfortunately, even some of the positive things of keeping in touch with people and some of the beauties of social media. I had to sacrifice because, unfortunately, it was bringing me so many things that weren't positive. And it was actually keeping me from getting to my goals and the things that I wanted. And it was making me miserable. It's making me resent things. And I started realizing that, wow, throughout all this time that I had this dead time, in my head, I was actually realizing like I was actually being negative on myself during those times. I should be doing this. I knew deep down I should be doing this.
Yep.
I think a lot of people that you talk to too, like if they are planning on getting up and going to the gym at 7 and then they actually sleep past their alarm until 8 or 9, it builds up and it builds into resentment and it builds into this negativity rather than just saying like, hey, I am or I'm not going to go. And like on Tuesdays, for example, like this day, I just don't have time to go to the gym this day.
Yep.
I'm just accepting that. I'm not going to the gym this day. So I'm not going to get down on myself for something I don't have time to do because
It's
I don't
Phil.
have to go to the gym every single day to hit that fitness goal, right? My goal is 4 times a week. That's not in there, okay? It's not in that day, all right? And then the third thing, like the most important thing is just positivity, like we've been talking about this whole time. I think that it's Kevin Hart, actually, his book. If you haven't read it, read that book. Kevin Hart is like my idol, partly because he's a short guy. I'm the same height as him, and you know I idolize him because of that stuff. But it's the way that he lives his life, where he brings light to everything. I think comedians are unbelievable. Um, if you think about people that you love in your life and people that you idolize, typically they are funny or they're positive in some way. And so I think that if you want to be someone who makes impact on people's life, you need that to, you need to do that yourself as well. But he talks about how he grew up in Philly and grew up in terrible, terrible, gang riddled areas and his dad was in and out of jail and his dad got him like a bike for his birthday and the bike was stolen.
Oh,
And the neighbor's dad came back over, was like, hey, that's my son's bike. We're going to need that back. And how crazy of a life he lives. Anyone could easily just turn around and say, I was just dealt these cards. But the fact that he brings light to the situation, I think that he's brought in light to some of the most difficult situations none of us will even ever experience. I think that's why he's achieved the level of success that he's achieved because he has that ability, and he's done that. So yeah, I think the more light that you can bring to the unfortunate situations. I always joke about not knowing my biological father, him living in an outhouse up the street, and me joking about going back to see him. Dad, where am I sleeping? Woman's room tonight? Like whatever it is, like joking about that stuff makes my girlfriend laugh a lot, makes people around me laugh. And to me, I still think that it is funny because really, I think because of the stuff that I learned in Kevin Hart's book. So would definitely recommend reading that and applying those.
that's awesome. So just to summarize, what I understood from you is go to a place where you can have a clear mind and just, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. Then write it down literally, like I'm doing this at this time. I'm doing it. Like you just said, I actually do something very similar. And so it's kind of cool to see it. And because I write it down on my phone. And then thirdly, be positive, right? Be positive and contagious. I love it. I think
And in step 2,
Yep.
I think an important part is that a lot of people look at like what they're going to do at that time. I think that sometimes it is even beneficial to just write down what you did with your time.
I like that.
And even if it's like spending time with family, I think that you should write that stuff down. Because in this article that I read, when doing a calendar like that, oftentimes people can look at open time and think, oh, I'm going to get this done now and this done now. Life
Yeah.
should not be all about productivity. I think you should also block out time for family, block out time for those other things that you want in life, and make sure that you're getting all of it in there and in having a balance.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I love it. I had so much fun with you. I think we would, like I said,
Blast.
forever. I think just to end it, I think that's key. What we've been promised in terms of the spiritual life is huge, and it says it on the versicle that I read, and is which God has promised to those who love Him, the crown of life, the crown of life, the crown of real life, where we won't have any struggles, where we will meet a real dad, where we will have no pain. I think that's the promise that drives my life, drives this channel. But you should also have a big why to go and be productive at work and enjoy what you're doing and smiling and being positive, like Sam just told us. Thank you, Sam, for all your time.
Hey, Juan, you are the man, dude. Thank you so much for having me. And I think people just watching you on this podcast, as long as they're just following you, I think that they'll pick up on some of that infectious positivity and they'll be good.
I don't know. We'll see. All right.
I know so. I do know. I've experienced it firsthand.
See ya.
But thank you again.